next, I wanted to ask the question of how can we use authentic materials to teach cultural content to online learners? And Maeda Sensei, you had touched upon some cultural components as well. If I could please start with you on this question.
So yeah, authentic materials are, great because it's culturally rich. So for example, I like using the McDonald's Japan's menu. So at the very beginning, sorry, my dog is asking for food. So at the very beginning, it's all in katakana. So the students are just learning out katakana. And then the background information, they know what the McDonald's are selling. So they already know. So that, it's something that it's familiar. So that now they just have to tackle with katakana, right? So, and then also the price, then we can practice about the, how much is it? But, you know, not only that, we can talk about the price comparison. Wow, which country is more expensive? And also, McDonald's menu usually has the culturally specific items. In Japan, for example, teriyaki chicken burger that's not available in the US. And in Korea, they have bulgogi burger, or Taiwan they have. So then we can open up for the cultural discussion so that yeah, there's any kind of simple material as long as it's authentic and has, cultural component, its potential is unlimited. So, and then I'd like to share one great resource. You know the CARA, at the University of Minnesota, one of the language center, CARA Literacy for Lectors. I think Jim-san, you can share this link. So this website carries so much great resources for the different languages, even including the lesson plans, how to use these authentic materials at a different level. And they also had multiple great workshops, and I participated two of them. One was using multi-literacies pedagogy with novice lector learners by Dr. Yumi Kumagaya at Smith College. And, she was talking about all kind of things we just, discussed about the authentic material use and the cultural component and tasks and scaffolding and so forth. So I highly recommend you to go into that site. Yeah, like that's all.
I love that you used McDonald's menu. I mean, you think, oh, Japanese culture, let's make authentic connections with Japanese culture. And it's like, well, no, actually, the McDonald's menu is a great way to have students connect with the Japanese culture and make comparisons and draw comparisons to their own culture. So I love the cross-cultural components of this. Thank you for that, Maeda Sensei. Saito Sensei, I'd love to hear from you. And again, the question is, how can we use authentic materials to teach cultural content to online learners?
Yeah, I pretty much mentioned the last questions, but I would like to add that so I believe that authentic materials are one of the best way to bring the culture for sure. And it's not even on the lines of the words, like all the pictures and background and like people's like facial expression, everything it's connected with the culture. And what they can take away from that one picture or like one authentic materials is it's really depends on the student. But I also like with using the chunking like technique, like I can bring them to the attention, like what types of like culture like it shows. And the context clues are very important, and also like that build like interpretive reading and stop like reading, and don't worry, like it's okay, the safe environment is also very important. And also another important step is the discussion, especially like, my class is synchronous online flipped learning. And so flipped learning, one thing like it works really well for the online environment. I can give them like all the materials that takes a quite good amount of time on my, like I call like synchronous time is premium time. and that they can discuss and they can talk with me in Japanese and they can see each other's mistakes and hear. And also they have this software model, they have like the breakout room time always. And the breakout room time is helping each other, the student who understand very well. They can be kind of like the peer tutor in the breakout room session. And I know there is a resource that like the teaching something you learned is actually helps that student's retention. So, and I provide this environment for the each other's like understanding, and student who failed to watch the video or didn't do the assignment before coming to the class, but still they can try to catch up like with this breakout room. And that's the system of my class. And in the breakout room, like I give them like authentic materials, like it's the full of, I was gonna give you one of the like Canva like resources that I've been collecting all the menus. And then like, you know, I give them like this link and like whatever the materials like they can bring up with using that materials and going into the discussion or like conversation practice. So and like entire classroom settings and together with the authentic materials is something like very essential for my teaching.
There is some kind of a magic that seems to happen when, especially in the flipped classroom, where the students are coming hopefully prepared. I know some more than
Yeah.
others, but they're coming prepared and they're working in these small group settings where there's a lot of back and forth between the students, between the instructor, and getting those authentic materials into the mix. It's just perfect. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll move to Love Sensei. Same question. How can we use authentic materials to teach cultural content to online learners?
Yeah, I think in general, just, the more the better, right? The more that you can use authentic materials and get things in there from Japan, the better. So, another example from my colleague Shun Mariyama, when he's doing a grammar lesson, like he'll often take excerpts from like manga and just bring them in and see like, here's how this character from, One Piece is using this grammar pattern, right? Or this word. And not only do you kind of have the opportunity to discuss about the culture, and you can bringing in something that students are likely to be familiar with and enjoy, but also if it's widely known enough, there's going to be a number of students in the classroom that actually have a lot of context that they can bring to whatever you're talking, right? They kind of know the characters and they know how they interrelate with each other, right? They know their relationships. And so, it kind of, I think, helps the learners to also get a deeper understanding of what's going on. One other thing that I'll mention is that I, in particular, like to draw students' attention to things that I think that they might not notice when I'm bringing, something authentic into the classroom. For example, we can have an excerpt of a conversation from maybe it's a show or, maybe it's a novel or a manga or something, but, taking a moment to say, did you notice that we've got like a senpai kohai relationship going on here? And did you notice that we've got one person that's, using, maybe a contracted desmos, right? Like this tamekeigo. And one student that's speaking like, completely informally, like, did you pick up on that? Did you pick up on these aren't just like two, students that are having an equal relationship. There's a little bit of something different going on here. So I think pulling those things out that maybe students aren't going to notice without someone giving them a little bit of guidance is really helpful for getting them to engage with cultural content and in particular cultural content that's going to be really useful for them as they're trying to use the language.
That's a really neat way to bring that cultural aspect of thinking about relationships and how things differ in Japan. So I really like the idea of pointing that out in something like an everyday conversation in a manga. Very cool. Thank you for that, Love Sensei. And Bostwick Sensei, let's go to you again. Same question. How can we use authentic materials to teach cultural content to online learners?
I'm not going to be able to add much different than what everyone else has already said. You've already given some really good ideas, but I do have to say that we also try to include some YouTube videos that demonstrate different cultural aspects between Japan and the United States. And like Luft Sensei said, sometimes students won't recognize the nuances and the differences. So sometimes we like to point that out. But also I found myself learning much more about my own culture when I started learning about the Japanese culture. So I think that's good for our students to reflect on their own culture at the same time when they're trying to learn about Japanese culture. And also too, as they're learning about one topic, for example, let's say we're learning about different festivals. Well, they start learning something about that festival, but then that takes them down a rabbit hole, maybe about the history, maybe about some other kind of clothing. Just they can learn so much more than what our actual task is if we guide them in the right direction. So I think that's what we would like them to do, is become learners that they would self-learn and be self-motivated to learn more things than just what we have them maybe prescribed to learn in according to our standards. So I think if we add options that allow students to learn more, then I think that's all for the better. We also have some resources that talk about and give students some examples of some different anime and have them realize that anime is not just Japanese, it's also American anime is anime. So I think it's just really good to point some different things out to them to help them learn culturally, but then also learn more about themselves as well.
That is an excellent point. And again, a lot of us have grown up with Disney and whatnot. So there is that context of we can compare it to something we grew up with in America and see how maybe Japanese children grow up with anime. And there's a lot of cross culture as well now that we have the internet and things like Netflix to bring these things into our homes. Thank you for that, Boswick Sensei.